I watched a certain 4-hour movie called the Zack Snyder
Did you
Justice
watch
League.
it, or did
Justice
you
is
just
Gray.
like manage to get through it? What was your excitement level before, during, and after?
My excitement level was pretty high, considering I love all the characters in this movie. I love the Justice League. Not this iteration of the Justice League. I'm talking about the TV show that we watched in college. You rewatched, obviously.
That show is awesome.
Yeah,
it's so well done.
It's a really great story arc of awesome characters. It's so cool. Go watch the Justice League animated
and Justice
series.
League Unlimited.
Yeah, those, and the theme song is great. It's awesome.
And they did a Young Justice League, I think.
They did. They also had Teen Titans, which I love. I like Teen Titans.
Yeah. I didn't watch the updated version of Teen Titans, but the original Teen Titan cartoon
it was good.
I did watch.
I liked it.
But Young Justice League, which came out a couple years ago and only had 2 seasons, was also really great.
I think I watched a little bit of that as well. But that's just a testament to these characters. DC has more of, I think, a history of good animated cartoon series as opposed to Marvel when you compare the two, except for the X-Men 90s show. And I guess you could say that some of the Spider-Man animated series were good, but I honestly didn't really like them that much. But I really did like, for instance, the Batman animated series, Batman Beyond, Justice League, Young Justice, Teen Titans. These are all really great series that, of course, tell the story arcs from the comics, but I think they also had some
DC
individual...
has dominated both the animated area, because even some of the animated films, like Batman Year One, is a fantastic film, and then they had a couple other Batman movies that were at the same style as the Batman animated series.
Yeah,
like the one with Mr. Freeze and things. But they've also got Batman Under the Red Hood, and a few other Batman animated films which are really, really good. I think that DC has dominated the television market, especially if you take a look at Smallville and the Arrow universe. So that's Arrow, Flash.
The Flash. Oh yeah. I guess you're including that in there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They hired the right people to run those series, but apparently they're really all over the place when it comes to the Justice League. When this movie originally came out, I didn't know it came out. Let's put it that way. The only reason I know that this movie exists is because this Zack Snyder cut has come out and everyone seemed to be talking about it. So, unfortunately, the reason why the Snyder cut did not come out originally when the Justice League came out, which I think Joss Whedon directed or
he took over. Zack Snyder was the director, because Zack Snyder has kind of been the
he did Man
for
of
lack
Steel.
of a better term, showrunner for the DC universe. He's curated it, so every movie has to be kind of at least in the style that he started with, which for better or worse is just, at least it is a style. But his daughter died, and so he stepped away from Justice League, handed it off to Joss Whedon, who had to kowtow to the studio demands, and also Joss Whedon did. So he made it lighter, funnier, but also had to make a lot of cuts and things that were necessary for the studio. So it came out and was a product that was kind of shit. And it was a bomb at the box office.
Very good. And now, of course, movies that change directing hands, I don't know if there's a history of any of these movies, but I can only imagine they were not typically they don't end up that well.
Generally,
perceived.
films that have a second hand that comes at them are not great.
Yeah, so it really does show the importance of film direction and how that's obviously it might be even more important than the actors delivering their lines properly, right? So it probably is.
Well, direction guides that too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
A good director should really see the whole movie in their head before they start going forward. So whether it's the actors that they need to choose, the kind of shot that they want to get, to kind of clothing the characters will wear, the production design aspects, so what the sets look like, what the feel and the vibe of the whole show are, the director is in charge of making sure that all of that is natural and fitting and creates the whole piece that they want to do.
What's your opinion on 4:3 aspect ratio?
I have no opinion on 4:3 aspect ratio.
Because this movie, this Snyder cut, is in 4:3. And
I think
there's two, and apparently there's two cuts of it that we watched separate cuts of. One is color graded and one is not.
Yeah.
I was trying to look it up. I was like, clearly there's a difference. What's the difference? And we couldn't come to an answer. So, and all the screenshots I saw of this movie were in black and white. So I was like, oh, this must be the one that I should be watching. And I didn't want to. We had like one chance to watch this, right? Because I had to work the next morning. So it's like, we got to start this now. So if we get too far in and figure out it's the wrong movie, there's no going to the other one. We're just going to have to cancel it. So, because it's such a long movie. Yeah, that was our whole dilemma there. But so I ended up watching the color graded version. Apparently Yvonne watched the in color version, or the as filmed version. So
I mean, all films have some amount of color grading.
Right. Well, I watched the heavily color graded version. Sorry. So I think that just starting as an overall, I think the black and white covered up a lot of the crappy CGI in this movie. I think it covered up, at least not a lot, but I think it covered up a little bit of it. And so I think that I guess it is the definitive version, but I guess I need to go back and spend another 4 hours watching it in color.
No. Save yourself. Go play Yakuza and just say that you watched it.
But back to your point where you asked me if I was excited before watching this. I was pretty excited because I do really I think I like the Justice League more than I like the Avengers, for instance. I think the Avengers, the only one that I really like is Iron Man, and I like Spider-Man, and I like X-Men. That's really all the Marvel property I like. I like a lot of DC properties. I like The Flash. I don't necessarily really like Superman that much, but I love Batman. And Martian Manhunter, I like him so much. You only see him a little bit.
How could you not watch the Justice League series and come away loving Martian Manhunter?
Exactly. He's so cool.
He's such a great character.
I wish he was in this movie more. But so I was pretty excited to watch this movie. I was like, oh, at the very least it'll be like they'll have those moments where they're all together and doing cool things together, and like that, because that's what I've come to expect from the whole collaboration movies because of Marvel. Because that's why the Marvel movies are good. Those are the best scenes in those movies, when Iron Man tosses an enemy towards Hulk or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. And like they come in and out of scenes, and those are the best moments in those movies. This movie this cut of this movie decides to tell the origin story for everyone and makes everyone a little baby emo character. In my opinion, we were calling it the emo league halfway through because it was that they were just trying to tell like a sob story about every single character. But
that's the thing, right? Every single character, like even the formulaic origin stories of all of the Marvel characters that we've seen so far, or even Batman and Superman, as we know, in terms of their tragic origins, like with Superman and his dad going, "No, I have to die," and Superman's like, "You really don't," and he's like, "I do." So it's just like it is a thematic thing. It's like there is a formula by which all Marvel superhero origin stories goes, and there's the tragic moment, and then Justice League is set up to introduce a ton of new characters, and so everyone has to have their tragic moment or whatever.
I guess.
And so it does really bog down. I think the thing about the way that the Avengers was set up, right, is that everybody had their own movie, so you could get like a lot of that. Nothing kills a good show like too much exposition, right? So you can get a lot of the exposition gone in smaller chunks in individual movies, but Justice League was like, we can't do a Cyborg movie without introducing him in Justice League. Can't do an Aquaman movie for whatever reason. Even though the guy that they chose to play Aquaman is a huge star in his own right.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah. So I felt like they mishandled the whole rollout, and if they had been able to like slow develop it, it would have made it a better movie overall.
But I guess I think it's where I think this must be WB, right? They're the money.
Yeah, Warner Brothers, yeah.
Right. So they're playing a reactionary game, I think, in terms of the rollout of DC films as opposed to how Marvel's doing it and Disney. Marvel and Disney, I think they had it all planned out, but they started what, 10 years ago, fucking 15 years ago at this point. But the DC movies didn't start until like halfway through that cycle. I think. I guess.
Well, this version of them, but they had been putting out the Batman movies in the midst of the Marvel movies, and we were all like, these Batman movies are way better than any individual Marvel movie.
Are you talking about
Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy?
Oh yeah, but that's not exactly. But
right, it's not related to this.
It's not connected.
But DC was still putting out great movies.
Of course.
And then when they started to try and uber commercialize it, which is weird to say about a Batman movie, but when they tried to uber commercialize it into this DC extended universe kind of build like the MCU.
Yeah, that's what they saw. Like I was saying, they're doing a reactionary thing.
Right. I totally agree. Yeah. But the thing is, like, they already had a really great product that they had put out.
Of course.
And if they had been able to just keep going and putting out their own films in that kind of genre and selection, then they could have built off of the Dark Knight trilogy in terms of grounding and aesthetic. But instead they went with Zack Snyder.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Who had done Watchmen before, and I thought Watchmen was a pretty good movie before I had ever read any of the comics. Because for me, like, I came up, my parents didn't let me read comics. It's not a big thing in the Soviet Union, and I thought it was trash when we came here. So we weren't allowed to buy comics, and I wasn't allowed to read them. So to me, like, when I saw The Watchmen, I was like, this is a fantastic film. It's great. And I thought it really worked there, but I think to make an entire series of films in that aesthetic is just too much. I think it's good for a stylized one-off, but not for a total thing.
Right. It can. They could have played more on. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, it would be kind of overwhelming and a lot of moving parts. Like, or it would be too. In the groundedness of the reality, you wouldn't be able to draw from things like Dark Side, for instance, or even like Brainiac. He's a weird character, and you wouldn't be able to incorporate some of the things like that into your grounded reality. Even Superman, to be honest with you. Like, how do you even do that? So that's why the Christopher Nolan films worked in that it was just Batman, because he's just a guy. His superpowers, he's rich, as Ben Affleck so eloquently said.
I think that the way to do that is to then use the same world and put Superman into it, and just as a one-off in that same vein of visual aesthetic, visual storytelling, and put Superman into it, and then it would help to integrate. But the way that it's so cartoony, it looked a lot of the time in Justice League, it looked like either better or worse versions of the Injustice video game.
The fighting game?
The fighting game. It looked like at some points during the fighting scenes, it looked like cutscenes for like super cool moments in the Injustice franchise.
Yeah.
But it at no point looked like a real movie, and it fell into that valley that Star Wars fell into in the second trilogy, so episodes 1, 2, and 3, where they were like green screen and real life are 1-to-1, and let's shoot the shit out of green screen.
Yeah.
And it goes too far in one direction. I mean, I understand that maybe you couldn't be as grounded and as gritty as the Nolan Batman trilogy, but you for no way, shape, or form can have just, pixels flying at you for 3 hours and be like, this is totally what I came to see. For me, because you talked about at the beginning that your favorite characters are like Batman and Flash. My favorite character in the DC universe, outside of the question, is Superman.
Yeah, I like
love
Superman.
And the fight where it's Superman versus the entire Justice League, and he just shits all over them. That is my favorite scene.
It's a cool scene. He destroyed everyone.
It was so cool, and I thought it was the only one that like pretty well worked, and I think it worked better. And this is gonna sound weird because Henry Cavill had his shirt off, so it had to have some grounding and more grounding in reality than like all the costumed stuff. So because I feel like just the way that they had to shoot it, it was it had to have more real shots and more of actually Henry Cavill doing the moves and then layering things with it rather than mostly CGI layers.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I mean, this is such a long movie. There's so many scenes to talk about, but that is definitely one of the standouts for sure. I thought he looked kind of funny with just the pants on, but he's got a great chest. I'll tell you that much. I think the one thing
wasn't as good as Jason Momoa, I will say.
Jason Momoa, they made him super smooth. I guess that's on purpose because he's Aquaman, but his skin has no texture at all in the movie, and it was kind of bugging me, but I sort of get it. The point, I think the few things that Zack Snyder does get correct in this movie is the impact that Superman has over the whole world and why he's really important and just how powerful he is. I think that's really and with that comes the moral dilemma that Superman is I guess famous for in the Justice League, because should he use his power for if he becomes a weapon at a certain point, right? Like who controls him is who wins, right? Because he's the most powerful being in this universe. So I really like that was conveyed. I think that was conveyed pretty well throughout the movie. But I think what wasn't conveyed well is sort of the synergy between these characters. I think that if you watch the Justice League animated series, Wonder Woman and Batman have like are banging, dude. But also they're really, like, the scenes in which they're together are really powerful scenes. You can sort of feel that relationship between them because it's well acted out and of course well written. I think this movie, Ben Affleck is a really shitty Batman and a really shitty Bruce Wayne. I like Gal Gadot. I think visually I think she fits the part for Wonder Woman. I don't know. I heard that there were some quarrels between Joss Whedon and Gal Gadot. I just read this when they were filming that movie, and he wanted her, like, she didn't want to play the part in the way that she did, but he wanted her to. It's like a whole thing. I guess you should read it, but there was like some sort of abusive relationship there, and she was sort of forced into maybe the way she was acting in the movie. But I don't know who wrote the script or what was going on, but I don't think that essentially what it boils down to is the relationships between these characters is kind of non-existent, is what I'm trying to say. Like, if you look at Alfred and Bruce Wayne's relationship, it's supposed to be a witty banter between the two, or at least we've come to believe that if you take a look at the great comparison of Michael Caine and Christian Bale. They have some really great lines together, and they work. You audibly laugh at some of these lines. They're really good, and then Alfred also plays that sort of fatherly figure, and Michael Caine does a really great job of that. I don't know who plays Alfred in this movie, but
it's Jeremy Irons.
Okay, yeah, I'm not saying
Scar.
Again, none of these actors in their own right are bad actors. Just they're all sort of put together in this movie that doesn't really work.
I think
I
think Ben Affleck is a fine Batman. I thought he was really good in Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice.
I don't remember seeing that. I know I saw it, but I don't remember much about it.
Ben Affleck as Batman was actually pretty good. And the one thing I would say is I don't think that there was enough Batman in this film. Weirdly, yeah. I feel like,
and that's weird to say because it's a 4-hour film. You'd think he'd be able to fit everything in it, right?
Yeah, but I think that there wasn't enough Batman, and I have a completely different take. And I hate Gal Gadot's acting. I think it's terrible.
I don't know. I thought, yeah, I agree, but I also don't know the what we saw on screen as if there was a result of behind the scenes situation. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never seen her in another movie, so I don't know. I
saw her in Date Night the other day, and she just played like a Israeli sex kitten.
I think she like aesthetically looks like Wonder Woman though. I think they cast her, at least visually, to look like Wonder Woman. I think they did that pretty well. But that's my opinion.
But her acting is not great. I was not a fan of it.
I didn't want to say that
the way they treated Wonder Woman a lot is just like a lot of these reaction shots where she's just like
No, but I think I read that those scenes were of contention as to.
All right, I'll have to go and read about it because I currently am incredibly underwhelmed.
I know I was underwhelmed too. Don't get me wrong. I also wanted to say like they were like a couple scenes that use that were way too on the nose. Obviously, girls should have something to look up to when it comes to superheroes, but it's like she's like, you can be whatever you want to be. When you grow, I don't know if you remember. It's just way too on the nose.
It's in the first 30 minutes of the film.
And then
yeah, it was definitely hitting the nail over the head, but whatever. If my sister, when she saw the Wonder Woman movie, said she openly wept in the theater because of the Wonder Woman movie. And I
didn't see that movie.
And I'm not a woman, so I can't fully speak to this. But I thought as a movie, it was a B plus.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to like imagine myself openly weeping at the idea of like an identity of mine getting commercial success. Like that's not my idea of progress,
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, people need to be able to see themselves in cinema, etc. So like there's I understand, but at the same time, it's not making right. Wonder Woman being in that movie doesn't change how much money women make compared to men. Like it doesn't move that scale.
Or anything else really.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And after that, I think after Wonder Woman came out, there were some of the most harsh anti-abortion laws passed in the South of all time. So it's like it's not like it changed the discussion in general. So that's kind of my take on that. It's just like, yes, it's great to have more representation, and I will commend Justice League from the beginning having more diversity in its cast than
you're right. They
Avengers.
Made the Asian character the scientist. It was great.
That I will say was a little on the nose.
And he also had a really great Asian accent. It's amazing.
Where do you think that actor was from, and where do you think that
I think his
name was
I don't
Ryan
know
something in the film, and I have no idea where that character was supposed to be from.
I don't know. I I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like
I think he's Chinese, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know.
I was like, maybe the character is supposed to be Chinese, but I don't know if he's Chinese.
I do not know. I'm not saying I don't know. He was kind of a throwaway character. It's useless.
I mean, he's probably getting set up for the next film, I would imagine.
I hear, they're setting up for another movie, or the end of this movie sets up for another movie to be made. Potentially, that would tie into the DC multi-universe thread, which I did like a lot. I just like I like it because it sort of seems like a fan fiction version of all DC properties, because you end up having like, what if Joker was on the Justice League team or stuff like that, and I like that stuff. It's fun.
But that's what it made it feel like the Injustice story arc, right? Because
exactly,
in the Injustice story arc, you have those crazy team ups. By the way, in the film, the character's name is Ryan Choi, which Chinese is Korean, if I'm not.
No,
Choi is Chinese, not Korean.
I don't know. It's a. I don't know. It could. I don't know how to explain it. It's like you're trying to. No, I think it could be either. Actually,
okay,
if I'm not mistaken. But
that's fine.
But yeah, it's like there's a different alphabet, so it's like, who fucking knows? When you read it in is it Arabic letters? What is what is our alphabet called?
Roman.
This Roman letters, sorry. Not Arabic, sorry. That's the number system, my bad. Yeah,
you know what, though?
When you translated over, it gets confusing.
Something that I didn't understand why is that Russia still caught some strays in this film. I don't know how or why. It's just like there are like dozens of places on Earth in which there has been incredibly high nuclear test volume. Why is it always Russia that's taking this fucking shit? It's just like, oh, yeah, he set up his evil base in Russia because they had an explosion. They also didn't just call it Chernobyl. I guess the Chernobyl Board of Tourism was like, no, we cannot accept this.
It's hilarious.
Also, I had no idea what language they were saying, but because it didn't say hotel, it said Gatel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, maybe that's how you spell it in Ukrainian, but it definitely wasn't Russian.
That's interesting. It
was misspelled based on how a Russian would spell it. So
that's super weird. I didn't know that.
You know?
Obviously,
the only Asian character being a throwaway Asian scientist, and Russia caught some strays because they're a site of nuclear reactor failure.
What do you want from Hollywood, Ivan? What do you want?
Nothing.
I wanted to talk about Cyborg for a little bit as well, if you don't mind. I think
let's get into it.
I like Cyborg as a character. I think he's super cool. As far as I know, he's not part of the Justice League in the animated series, right?
He might be in Justice League Unlimited,
because that's when they started adding
maybe
more
not.
in.
He might only be in either Young Justice, and he's definitely in Teen Titans.
Yes, of course, that's where he's from. He's a Teen Titan, so that's why I was confused as to why he was in this movie.
In the comics, he's in the Justice League.
Is he? Okay, so
yeah.
All right, I didn't know that. That's cool. I think I feel I get you again. You're right with the diversity of the cast there. I mean, having a black superhero there is super awesome. I just feel like they, in terms of movement, they made him walk like fucking General Grievous. He reminded me a lot of that. And I
just couldn't watch him. It was just
he was, and they also gave him a lot of powers that I didn't know he had, or maybe this is just Zack Snyder's vision of Cyborg's powers, where he has control over all of money in the world. I didn't know that. That seemed a little odd and weird to me.
I think that was like,
and it was
he
only
could
relevant.
hack into the information, into the banking systems, and therefore he would be able to control flow of money, because money isn't a real thing. It's just ones and zeros.
I guess you're not wrong in a way. With blockchains, who fucking knows? All right.
Well,
yeah.
You know, quantitative easing is like where the central bank of the United States will start issuing currency, but they don't like actually print more money. They just create like digital currency and digital bank accounts and things. They don't actually just like churn out more dollar bills.
Right.
So
makes sense.
I think that totally makes sense.
I was
visualizing it like this is like
I
mean, it was a good visual, but it's like so dumb.
I think that was silly, but
also it's just like that woman is gonna like get shat on by the IRS. I just did my taxes and I was just like, how is she gonna explain this income? She's gonna have to 1099 it.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Or she could just not. I don't claim to know anything about taxes. She could just not report it, I suppose. I mean, how is IRS really? I don't know. Anyways, I just feel like this movie was literally the same exact plot of the Avengers movies with the Infinity Stones, which is unfortunate.
Well,
They just
the
had to
thing
get
is,
the mother
like,
boxes instead.
yeah, but that's like a whole contentious thing because Darkseid, I think, originated before Thanos, but then they look
No,
and
they
have the
look
same
exactly
kind
the
of.
same.
Except for Marvel has more money to make him look more real.
They and yeah, I mean, but there's also a lot of crossover in superheroes as well. These two companies have been at it making superheroes and villains for years, centuries, almost decades, of course. And so it's no wonder that they're gonna make the same hero or villain once or twice or many times
Especially
over.
when Marvel steals it.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to figure out who came first. It's ridiculous that it's literally the same exact movie.
Yeah, my thing is like, why did they go with this storyline? I mean, I think there are so many different Justice League storylines that you can go with.
Yeah.
Why would you go with the one that looks the most like the Marvel enemy of like 20 movies? You know?
I don't know. I also the plot it is what it is. Who gives a fuck? I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about Ezra Miller's performance of the Flash. I thought I actually liked it a lot. I think he was. I mean, I guess you pointed out when we reviewed Thor Ragnarok, I believe, one of the Thor movies, that these movies are best when they're funny. And I think that Ezra Miller, or I mean, I know The Flash has always been written into for some sort of comic relief. Of course, he has really big plot points in the shows and things like that, but he's typically a comic relief character. So I think Ezra Miller did a pretty good job, in my opinion, of playing Barry Allen and making him sort of like a nerdy character that that has this obviously incredible gift, but
I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Also, if there was one character whose origin story I kind of wanted, it was the Flash's.
I know. Yeah. He was the most interesting. I think he was the most interesting character on screen when ever in this entire movie. I think this is the most interesting character. He's super cool. I don't know. He had major plot points in a lot of the fights. Like he was a main part of a lot of the fights, as opposed to Batman, Wonder Woman, and Cyborg and Aquaman. They were essentially just beating up bad guys the whole time. They didn't really do anything. But Ezra Miller is there. The Flash is there. He's like he's generating enough current with his light speed travel.
I think that is the thing, though, right? Like,
I guess
if we think about Avengers, like Natasha Romanoff, like Black Widow, Hawkeye, they don't have super strength or anything. Like you have Thor, who is super strong, has got the hammer. Then you have Iron Man with the suit and technology, and Hulk obviously has super strength, etc. But they all feel like they have some dynamics of like things that make them their own, or kind of their own fighting style, things like that.
Right.
Like Captain America with the shield. But when it comes down to this, it's just like you're substituting a weapon basically, but each of them has strong melee attacks and then a ranged attack of some sort. It just didn't feel as diversified. I mean, Cyborg felt kind of individualized.
Yeah, because he's just Iron Man, I guess, in a way.
There's not a lot of difference between like Aquaman and Wonder Woman's fighting style. And to an extent, Superman. They all just punch really hard. You know,
Exactly.
like for the majority of what they're doing, it's just beating people up.
Right, and Wonder Woman has her trump card where she brings her bracelets together, or what are they called? Not bracers.
Bracers.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So I don't know. That's a really good point, actually. When the action starts happening, there's no real differentiation between what they're fighting and who's fighting and what's
even
happening.
If they have slightly different weapons, it's not a huge difference in fighting style. Like Hulk is just such a unique fighting style with being huge and being able to clap and generate things, and like the thing that he does with Loki, which is hilarious.
Visually,
right?
Yeah.
Versus Thor with the hammer and throwing it back and forth and having like a lot of what he does being individualized. And I guess you could make some analogies between like Thor and Captain America because they have a melee weapon that they throw, but it feels pretty different. But I didn't feel a lot of diversity. The fighting is best when it tells a story. Like what did we learn from John Wick? It's like John Wick works best because it tells the story. This is going to be gritty, realistic fighting, and every action has fluid efficiency. But when we look at the DC fights, it's just like big power, throw punch, big power, use sword, big power, use trident. It doesn't feel as individualized,
and that's
I think mostly because everybody nobody's a human except for Batman,
and I guess Barry Allen, but that's why the Flash.
But he's the Flash.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but he's still a human, right?
Well, I meant like versus Black Widow and Hawkeye.
Yeah, you're right.
And even Iron Man is like a human who still has to deal with the realities of being a human. But the Flash can super heal himself by thinking real hard.
Well, I wanted to bring it back to the Flash because that's my favorite parts of all these fight scenes are when we're focusing on the Flash and he's doing his time travel shit, or he's like slowing down time and like altering the course of the battle with his super speed. I think those were the most interesting little tidbits of the fight scenes that were happening. Otherwise, it was just like all of a sudden they were able to beat Steppenwolf. But then Superman came by, and it's like, what a surprise. Oh, Superman came and now we can beat him. Okay. That's just the plot of the fight, essentially, which is what they were trying to do the whole time, I guess. But
they didn't win even when Superman was there because he spent too much time beating the shit out of him.
Yeah, I know. And then, well, that was, I guess, the setup for the potential new movie. But I hear that their Warner Brothers has ceased production on Justice League sequels. I just wanted to talk about the epilogue real quick because this is
one more thing.
Go. I don't. Yeah. Up to you.
Why did Superman have to see Alfred?
Did he? I don't even remember that.
He goes to see Alfred right before he goes to Russia to fight them.
Yes.
But Superman has super hearing and would clearly be able to hear a bunch of superheroes just punching each other.
Dude, that's the plot that you're hung. I guess I'm even more hung up on the Martian Manhunter going to see Lois Lane. Why did he have to see her? You remember that?
Because the Martian Manhunter,
I thought it was
has telepathic abilities and might have also been contacted by future Barry Allen to make sure that Lois Lane
goes to see Superman.
Yeah.
Okay. That's like the sort of things that would require a sequel to explain, I guess. that makes sense in a way.
You can make some inferences though because of how much future forecasting versus past things. And speaking of future forecasting, we have the epilogue.
Oh God, this is the this fucking mess. It was obviously just a way for them to shoehorn the Joker in and Jared Leto's performance of the Joker.
I hadn't seen it before because I haven't watched a lot of DC films.
Neither have I. And I actually wanted to watch this movie because it would have been an opportunity for me to see firsthand how Jared Leto has been playing the Joker. I didn't see the Suicide Squad, and I don't know what else he's in. Because he's not in Batman versus Superman, right? I saw Batman versus Superman. I don't remember him. So this is...
He hadn't been hired yet, I don't think, at that point.
I see. And there was one Batman movie before that, right?
No.
Wasn't
there? That was the first one.
That was the first Ben Affleck Batman? And I guess only? That's funny. I didn't know that. Well, anyways, it's like... This character is forever going to be living in the shadow of Heath Ledger. I think, especially if...
Even Jack Nicholson, though. Jack Nicholson was a great Joker.
No, but do you think he would be great if you saw him after Heath Ledger?
I think that they're both good in a different way. I think so,
too.
I think that for us, there's no better Joker than Heath Ledger. But
Definitely.
We have such a passionate affinity for that film that it's just like no one will ever come close.
It's so great. It's such a great performance, and just trying to emulate that is a huge mistake, I think. And that's clearly what Jared Leto is going for, I think, in my opinion.
I think he's purposefully staying away from it.
Well, whoever decided to give him the same exact makeup but make it worse is the problem.
I mean, it's the Joker. What else? What other makeup does the Joker have?
No, but Jack Nicholson didn't have... Like, the Heath Ledger image is he's got the scars and you've got this sort of shitty... It evolved into what Heath Ledger... or whoever did the makeup decided that be the makeup scheme is sort of more of a shittily, pardon my French, painted mess on his face, as opposed to Jack Nicholson had it was all like clean lines, and it was like fully nothing smeared, nothing like that, until he gets into a fight, and in which case I think maybe that was an accident. I don't know if it was smeared on purpose, but like towards the end of Batman
Phoenix
89
was similarly kind of perfect.
So and I kind of like that performance. I think that was definitely I my girlfriend has brought light to this. I mean, I personally like that movie, but she told me that in her opinion it's sort of a bad look on mental health issues and how we perceive people with mental health. Is just like the first reaction they would have is to kill someone or like become a murderer or something, or like become violent is what people with mental health problems end up having. And that's sort of how she perceived that movie. So she didn't like that movie. And
I have a strong disagreement with that kind of interpretation, because I think that there's an easy delineation between the Joker, which you're going into that movie knowing that the movie is titled The Joker, and understanding that the Joker is an insane person, versus going into a movie called like Harper's Bandage, which is about mental health and things, and then immediately that person becomes homicidal. I think that there's a
difference. Yeah,
there's a contextualization, and I think not every movie, particularly a comic book movie, has to have the nuance of telling that kind of story because we contextualize it with all of the foreknowledge that we have going into a movie like that.
Okay.
But on the other hand, I understand the point to an extent, but I just if you're going into a movie called The Joker, where you know the history of like he's killed Barbara Gordon, like, and he's killed so many other people, like. Yeah. You know that he's going to be killing people. It's just like
no, that obviously the Joker is a murderous clown, but no, you're right. I that's another point to the both sides of the argument. I'm not here to argue either way. I was just trying to say that
Switzerland over here. He's never gonna have an argument. I will never,
especially not Yvonne and my girlfriend. It always happens
Julien,
this way. It always happens
this way. Never gonna step into that argument.
I will not fight in this arena. But my point is that the way Jared Leto looks in this movie is, I think, looks a lot like Heath Ledger, or is like trying in a way. He's got like. Specifically the mouth portion going past the lips, like that's so Heath Ledger, in my opinion. That's or that Christopher Nolan vision of the Joker.
It is reminiscent of it. I think that he talks differently and he kind of acts differently, and he's supposed to can be kind of like the more mature X-rated. Like he's like, who's gonna give you a reach around? You know, be a little bit more racy. But his performance sucks. I hate that character. And Jared Leto has given some very good performances. Mm-hmm. I just hate his performance as the Joker.
It was a little off-putting, and then it sort of ended because Batman woke up. So I don't even know why I was in the movie. I guess just to foreshadow what could potentially be another waste of 4 hours of our time. Vaughn, thank you so much for indulging me. And my desire to do this stupid podcast about this stupid movie that sucks.
This really was an indulgence.
This one, I might have went too far.
Punishment for me. This is like, you made me do 2 podcasts on my own. You have made me talk about shit that I don't want to talk about. I don't want to watch this movie either, but I've got a partner that I can watch this with, and at least we can do witty banter to each other. You motherfucker, you are stuck at home by yourself. You fucking sit at home by yourself, no cats, no significant other, cats. And you fucking watch this movie.
Oh God, I'm sorry, Yvonne. We'll do.
You're not sorry.
Yeah, you'll never be sorry. You're not sorry. Not yet. That's the fucking Two-Face. I love The Dark Knight so much more than this movie. So much more. Oh God. When he takes the drink and then it's just not. It's a great scene.
Out
fucking great scene. Oh my God, it's so much better. It's so much better. And that's like tasteful CG too. It's not. Like, it doesn't necessarily hold up that well now, but it still looks better than the Justice League.
So should our summer series be like 3 weeks in which we review an old trilogy?
I think...
Like, should we, like, we did the Matrix summer series. Yeah. This year, it'll be the Batman, the Christopher Nolan Batman summer series. Going there.
That's fine with me. I'm happy
to
do
dive.
Summer
Deep dive.
We're giving you the deep dives, people. This is what you come to the Hungover Podcast for. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Have a great night and week.
Thank you, guys.
Night.
Bye.
Who listens to a podcast at night? Goodbye.